Nature United. The state of our world and the rise of the global community. Life on Earth is rapidly changing on many levels, for us humans and all beings, as interconnected parts and inhabitants of a single planetary organism. Our world is going through a major global crisis, a pivotal turning point in history and evolutionary transformation of our consciousness. We are reaching a climax in the most crucial period of our civilization, approaching the limits of what our biosphere and collective consciousness can tolerate without creating substantial and irreversible harm. We are in a race against time to adapt to a rapidly changing climate while living in a society of inequality, with the majority of our population suffering and conditioned to live in a state of indifference. No matter who we are, whether we are young or old, male or female, human or otherwise, we are all universal and carry within us the same profound nature that is our most sacred truth. Each of us belongs to the family of the one universal being, sharing the nature of light bodies as our innate and natural lineage. There is but one universe, one mind, one force, one substance. All things are universal, all created things are indissolubly united. If we allow ourselves to recognize this inner truth and capacity, we can begin to see our potential for achieving the perfection of all good qualities and transformation of all faults. Our nature has been primordially pure, but our experience has become clouded by layers and layers of obscuring concepts. Like a jewel buried deep in the ground, we have lost sight of our innate purity, and as a consequence, we perpetuate for ourselves in endless cycles of suffering. The true life path helps us remember the purity as the original state of our mind, and inspires us into action to remove the conditions which prevent that purity from fully manifesting. Our purpose is to comprehend and practice the divine law of love and balance, to seek and build peace, happiness, and goodwill on Earth and the universe. It is the very same as that of our extraterrestrial universe, the formation, improvement and unification of consciousness. Through the liberating knowledge of our interconnected oneness, the source and cause of all that is, we learn how to make Earth after the pattern of heaven. The lives of all living beings are important. Wholeheartedly we make the welfare of all the objective of our lives. To take responsibility for the future of our species by creating a favorable atmosphere that reduces conflict, violence, tension and aids in the promotion of social equality, it will be necessary for us to rise as a global community and world family in order to transform our individual to a universal group consciousness and awareness of our collective state of mind. When we cultivate ourselves and our surroundings, we can break free from old patterns and unleash a new wave of imagination and progress. As old norms and institutions fall apart, we begin to experiment with new modes of living, with new tribes, communities, and solutions to solve our problems, reduce our suffering, achieve our dreams, and evolve into something greater. We are socially, mentally and physically preparing for a futurist mindset, becoming universal world citizens, creating the beginning of a new era when the wars will stop, world peace will come, and all the people will be able to practice spiritual perfection. This will be our greatest achievement. We are humanity, we are Earth, we are nature, united as one, and with everything in existence, we are to build a new society, a universal society, for all. Radiating deep love for our world and all inhabitants, we work tirelessly to establish a heart with heaven and earth, a destiny with all living beings, by building a world collectively where we empower people and societies around the world to build a regenerative, smart and sustainable planetary culture, of autonomous and interconnected communities, based on cooperation and trust, aligned with the universal patterns of life, creating a suitable environment to nurture this great transition of the unification of consciousness, the sacred alliance of all beings. We gain multiple benefits of altruism and compassionate action, becoming more content and happier ourselves as we help and serve all others. A global society of independent free people living in harmony with nature and each other, respecting the basic right of every living being, honoring the dignity and freedom of all. fulfilling our true nature as creators, rediscovering the mystery of the world, maintaining a spiritual practice that places the sacredness of life at its center, awakening the latent peace knowledge that we all carry within us and collaborate in creating a global field for peacefully inhabiting and living on Earth. The world that has created us and the world that we create are now joining closely together. This is the goal of our journey. We are what our deep driving desire is. As our desire is, so is our will. As our will is, so is our deed. As our deed is, so is our destiny. Nature united. Turning the global crisis into an opportunity for peace and prosperity. Since beginningless time, we have cycled continuously within consciousness in a conditioned and bounded state of existence. Earth has experienced natural, ongoing changes dating back millions of years, affecting our environment and all of its inhabitants, causing all of the afflictions in the world we are facing today. Changes are taking place inside the core of our planet and the galaxy we live in. Even though Earth and the universe is perfectly balanced, and constantly moving to keep that balanced position, moving with every other object in the world which also moves in unison, we are all affected by large cosmic cycles and fields of energy that regulate the universal seasons and precession of the equinoxes. During our last century up until now, Earth's magnetic field is drastically weakening and has moved increasingly fast. The planets and our Sun are all changing to tell us that we are experiencing a monumental milestone in the grand scheme of a cosmic 1,000-year cycle, and directly on time moving towards the galactic magnetic reversal, a deep bicentennial grand solar minimum and a major solar storm event in the 2040s, followed by a period of deep cooling and a mini ice age. Biodiversity is collapsing. Ecosystems are disappearing. Deserts are spreading. Wetlands are being lost. Coral reefs are diminishing. Permafrost is melting and releasing methane gases into our environment. Record high and low temperatures are being recorded all over the world. Extreme unstable weather patterns, increasing volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, wildfires, floods, tsunamis, hurricanes and droughts are the new normal. Animal species are rapidly going extinct. The impact is global. We are not only threatened by the catastrophic consequences of climate change, but by our collective actions and karma, which have given rise to social inequality, poverty, war, oppression, exploitation, corruption, sickness, destruction, moral degradation, harmful behavior and many other types of elemental imbalances in nature. Air, water, land and food pollution are drastically increasing. Oil and gas spills, chemical waste disposals and a depletion of Earth's natural resources at an unsustainable rate are regularly occurring. Education and media are harmfully conditioning us in schools and at home. The harmful impacts fall on everyone, and especially on the world's most vulnerable people. Countless beings around the world are facing starvation and malnutrition. People and animals are unnecessarily suffering. Every continent in the world is experiencing serious consequences in one form or another, with droughts and water scarcity becoming one of the biggest issues for us all right now. Over 2 billion people have been affected by extreme weather and climate-related disasters over the past decade alone, while the entire world population is affected by all of the issues we are currently confronted with. The great cause of the global emergency of our world's failure and unbalance is the disunity caused by the practice of inequality in nature and the changes in all aspects of our collective consciousness: climate change, unsustainable overconsumption, drought, disasters, conflict and unresolved tension. Humanity has reached a tipping point, where we use up and consume all of what our Earth's ecosystem can sustainably produce, regenerate and renew in 1 year within the first 7 months of the year. In total, more than half of the planet's biocapacity is used to feed humanity, with the largest part of the food and raw materials being used to feed animals that are then consumed by humans. Agriculture and human consumption contributes to deforestation, climate change, loss of biodiversity, and degradation of ecosystems while using a significant share of fresh water. Still unknown to the majority of our population, reducing meat consumption and limiting food waste will significantly improve our condition. Drastically reducing deforestation and systemically restoring forests and other ecosystems are the largest nature-based opportunity for climate mitigation. Non-killing brings about miraculous blessings. Water will refresh the precious fields, and farmers, people, and animals will all rejoice. By getting large groups of people to undergo intense purification, our universal mind may be moved, and the crops can be saved, and catastrophes may be minimized. Today, our present unbalanced civilization, where we create massive poverty in some parts of society and massive wealth accumulation in other parts, is scientifically impossible to endure. The whole world is seemingly divided against itself within a decaying civilization, and may fall once again, unless we can be transformed by the renewing of our mind, when love and service come quickly enough to save ourselves from that catastrophe. Humanity, and many other aspects of the universal mind and our world, unknown and invisible to our senses, operating in states of limited awareness, are waging war on nature and ourselves. The health and well-being of our planet and humanity is deteriorating. The world resists change and cannot change unless we individuals change. Most of our troubles and misfortunes are caused by our way of life, which is often in a constant violation of the one universal law, demanding all actions to be balanced and equal in their interchange. Blessings and misfortunes give birth to each other in accordance with nature. Every trouble that the world is individually and collectively suffering from today is due to a vast accumulation of tensions. When nations take from each other to enrich themselves, two violently unbalanced conditions are created which cause wars, conflict, tension, the effects of unbalance which have their cause in the limited awareness of our consciousness. We humans do not yet fully understand that whenever we create harmful behavior, we are also creating misfortune and suffering. We can improve the global condition when each one of us starts living in the law of balance and love. It will be impossible for us to build an enduring civilization until we equalize society, including man and woman's mind power. When we realize this, we will be inspired to action by bringing global balance and equalization into being. Practicing morality and self-cultivation, we can stay free of misfortunes with good daily conduct. We are only slowly and gradually becoming aware of who we are, and what our purpose on earth really is. It will take great courage, and much self-discipline, but the rewards will be contentment, peace and prosperity for all mankind. We shall find that as we live love, which means giving service, that we shall be happier than we have ever been before. And as we become happier, ourselves, our family, neighbors, and friends, will reflect this happiness. If we would be unselfish and content with what was given to us, then there would be no misfortunes, and life would be one big blessing. But in our conditioned states of selfishness and unawareness, we often want more, and we naturally indulge our desires in a self-destructive manner. Piety and self-discipline are essential to our success, and when we offer our services willingly, out of our own desire to benefit living beings, the satisfaction of helping people is a sufficient reward. The recovery of our real nature requires the accumulation of virtuous actions. If we the people behave well, heaven sends down its blessings and good energy. We can much better secure our well-being through moral everyday behavior. The key to our success lies in our purity and discipline. If we want to move heaven and earth, all of us must restrain our conduct. Our purity will move the universe, and create blessings and good energy. Let us be pure and still, minimize and simplify our lives, and start giving back to life. There are many joys in life, but there is only one infinite joy, altruism. This is the only way to get infinite happiness, which represents the fundamental desire of all beings. By clearing our minds of selfish emotions and thoughts, we manifest the spirit of compassionate virtue. As realized humans of marvelous deeds, we fulfill our original vows, rescuing those in danger, relieving those who suffer, and bringing salvation to all sentient beings. We must be diligent and devoted in our service to the poor, providing food and water. We will plant our causes for salvation even more than we would with any other activity, and our required quota of blessed deeds will be completed. The accumulation of good deeds is essential for the highest salvation, gaining merit by giving generously without any desire for recognition or reward. We treat all respectfully, practicing the virtue of undiscriminating kindness. Our hearts give rise to mercy and compassion as we practice great virtue, rescuing those who are drowning and helping those who are in danger. Even small amounts of pride may prevent us from gaining the highest benefits of realization. We put others first and ourselves last. The merciful and compassionate blessings of helping the poor and rescuing those who suffer, the meritorious virtue attained by it is limitless. We get rid of feelings of hatred, and eliminate feelings of affection, and purely begin understanding equality. We engage in countless actions that condition our experience and drive us into unsatisfying situations. It is a pattern we have repeated over and over again. It is therefore extraordinary that at this particular moment we have attained a precious human rebirth filled with amazing possibilities. It is as if we had been granted a wish-fulfilling jewel that holds the promise of everything our hearts ever desired. Right now is the time to break free from the cycle of endless suffering, achieve liberation and the complete enlightenment of universal clear light body. When we burn away greed and transform all negative emotions on the earthly plane, and let the true earthly and celestial will combine harmoniously, this will restore our original being. Only when we work together for spiritual unity, and equalize our mental and physical relations, a balanced civilization will be possible. One of our best allies is nature itself. Creating a world that works for all of us, a tremendous responsibility rests upon every man and woman in this critical period. To remain unaware on the meaning of mankind, and our high place in nature's unfolding design of creation, is holding us back and hindering our progress of humanity from discovering our divine destiny. To unite all beings into one world family upon the basis of brotherly and sisterly love and balanced and equal interchange, with the purpose to uplift and awaken humanity to the divine law of love and balance, creating unity, peace, and equality in our world. We are at the threshold of a cosmic age where we will begin to recognize our divine relationship with nature, and the purpose of our creation for manifesting our universal divinity as living, breathing beings, to discover what life and love truly are. We will continue to create harm until we discover the real secret of life. When we comprehend and put into practice the natural laws that govern us, we will have less problems and create a better world for us all to live in. With greater understanding, we will strive to live by the laws of nature which must be adhered to in order that balance is maintained in all of our physical, mental, and spiritual interchanges. Human's strongest instinct is to live and to survive, and the greatest urge in all of nature is unity. Human resistance disappears entirely when the love force of nature transforms our separateness and its consequent selfishness. It is imperative that all people become aware of the cause of our dilemma, so that we can have a realistic approach to our present-day problems. The solutions must be based on the scientific laws of our universe. Embracing our ancestors and indigenous knowledge, distilled over millennia of close and direct contact with nature, can help point the way. Indigenous people make up less than 6% of the world's population yet are stewards of 80% of the world's biodiversity on land. Nature land managed by indigenous peoples is declining less rapidly than elsewhere, but is among the most vulnerable to climate change and environmental degradation. It is time to heed their voices, reward their knowledge and respect their rights and opinions, for the benefit of us all. A global perspective is the starting point of defining our vision about the future. Peace must triumph on earth. Only the great brother and sisterhood of united humanity as a world family will allow life to continue. Living by the very principle of social cohesion, practicing justice, speaking the truth, acting for the good and benefit of the collective, living in balance with each other and in harmony with nature. There is only one path to peace and security, the path of an international organization voluntarily by and for all people of this world. The will of the people in a state of heightened awareness and love shall be the basis of the authority of the true world family society. Making peace with nature, ending famine and poverty, unifying human consciousness and building a one-world society are the defining tasks of the 21st century for the global community. The goal of our journey, the role of every one of us is to live so that only balance is expressed in every interchange between individuals and all people on earth. Peace will come to any human, any community, any town, city, country and to the world, when we comprehend the fact that basic cause of every human agony is the violation of the law of balance. It will take the great personal effort of every man and woman to fulfill completely this law of balance. We need each other, no matter our appearances. We are all an equal extension of creation. Every human is at a different stage of awareness, different in its thought processes. For this reason, we can understand why it is a great challenge for human beings to live in harmony with each other. The sooner we realize our deep need and dependence of each other, the sooner shall we work with and for each other. Our lack of awareness of our true selves is the only thing which separates us. All of the technological knowledge is valueless if we do not have worldwide peaceful interchange. The greatest challenge is how to approach the moment we find ourselves in imbalance, it equally dissolving all tension. If happiness, peace, success and all that is good is attainable only by obeying the law of balance, the more we comprehend that principle, the more we will be able to keep the human family in balance with one another. The ascension of humanity to great heights is dependent upon our ability to become re-inspired by the enlightening messages brought to us in our lives. Mind multiplies its power to uplift mankind to higher cultural levels when we are engaged in peaceful pursuits which promote friendliness. We can bring order out of chaos, unity out of disunity, and love out of fear, uniting now, by multiplying the power of our voice and actions by many millions. There will come a time when the whole humanity will know itself as one family. When that day comes, every human will be seen as the relative of one another. As love comes into the world with spiritual unfolding, separateness and disunity go out of it. With love comes knowledge of the power of unity, which makes the power of one become the power of many. The world is one family of one world home. The ideal world is one in which every member of it serves each other lovingly to give it happiness, and refrains from doing anything which will take its happiness away from it. That is the ultimate goal. That is what mankind is striving for. That is what it has been striving for over the long eons. For these long ages it has ever been searching for the road which will lead it to that goal of peace and prosperity. The ideal of the world family is still so far away it may again dissolve and birth itself several times before it learns its lesson sufficiently to function as a whole. The world family is on its way to finding the road which leads to unity and cohesiveness. The happy, peaceful and progressive society is one where each member of the family thinks first of each other before itself, and freely gives without motive of self-gain. Whatever we desire, we learn to give out first. Let us become the change we want to see. Behind the visible world there is a parallel world of undreamt possibilities, a reality largely unknown to us, from where growth, healing and insight emerge. To become able to carry out successful global healing work, we're learning to cooperate with these universal powers. By discovering our creative process and sacred life force through thinking, spiritual and consciousness work, through art, music, theater and dance, and above all through building trust among people, we learn to connect the world that we create with the world that has created us. Once our attitude begins to transform, we will naturally shift to greater engagement with all beings in our life, taking advantage of the many opportunities that arise to offer our time and resources to benefiting others. This may come in the form of volunteering in our local community, or working in a day-to-day basis to bring more love and compassion to our relationships, practicing generosity, ethical discipline, patience, diligence, meditative concentration and wisdom. As we engage in increasingly more meaningful activities, we begin to broaden our awareness of the different ways in which people suffer. Looking deeply into the nature of the experience, we develop a profound compassion motivating our practice and inspiring us into action. The right spiritual practices allow us to uncover the reality and original state of our mind, which is currently hidden as a result of defilements. Through practice we come closer to discovering our innate purity of our most profound nature, remembering that our underlying nature is pure and free from defilements. Even though on a relative level our world and all dependent phenomena appear imperfect, and humans seem to have many defilements that have not yet been overcome, our universe is pure and all beings in it enlightened. By embracing our absolute and ultimate nature, the non-dual reality of enlightenment, we are able to experience all aspects of life with a much clearer and more compassionate view. Free from all dualistic thinking, we transform all impure experiences into pure perception until we realize that everything has been pure all along. Our ultimate truth and original, absolute nature, is the omniscient state of mind that is free from all obscurations as the experience of reality as it is, known as emptiness and directly realized through wisdom. Currently we are dominated by our negative emotions and controlled by the karmic conditioning we have developed over countless lifetimes. Developing strong restraint towards harmful behavior gives power to our purification and makes it possible to clear away lifetimes of negative karma. When we develop a strong aspiration to refrain from negative conduct, we will eventually become powerful enough to abandon non-virtue completely. To unveil the natural, original and purified state of our mind, we accumulate merit and purify all defilements on a relative level, relying on the universal mind to help us peel back all these layers of habitual patterns, purifying our negative emotions, negative deeds and tendencies, and all obscurations which prevent us from seeing the ultimate truth. Doing good deeds produces merit, the positive energy that is generated when engaging in virtuous actions, providing the basis for happiness to arise in the future. Merit is the component helping us cultivate virtuous qualities necessary to increase our ability to understand universal truth and teachings, correctly supporting us in developing enthusiasm for our practice, giving us strength to overcome all obstacles along the way. All virtuous actions create positive karmic propensities which have the capacity to produce the experience of happiness. When we engage with more virtuous acts and act in a wholesome and virtuous way, we plant positive seeds and generate a great deal of merit in our mind streams, creating more positive qualities that naturally and spontaneously arise in our minds. With time and experience, our trust in this natural law of cause and effect will grow, providing the basis for leading a more ethical and fulfilling life, helping us realize that negative actions in both the long and short term only lead to our own suffering. Love has the effect of dissolving our bias of self-cherishing, opening up our hearts and allowing us to develop meaningful connections with those around us. As we strengthen our connections through authentic love and kindness, we expand our sphere of interest to include more and more people. In time, our love becomes less conditioned, allowing it to grow immeasurably until it encompasses all sentient beings regardless of their relationship with us. The closer we feel towards others, the more we can care about their welfare, and it is this caring that manifests in the form of compassion. Because of its interdependent nature with love and kindness, the more love we feel, the stronger our compassion grows. Although it may start at a superficial level of merely empathizing with the suffering of others, in time, it too will expand until we feel personally responsible for helping every single sentient beings without exception. The more we dedicate ourselves to their welfare, the less focused we are in feeding our self-cherishing. This clears away more bias and creates the conditions for us to realize our ultimate nature. Understanding climate change. Cold, glacial periods affecting the polar to mid-latitudes persisted for about 100,000 years, punctuated by briefer, warmer periods called interglacials. All ice ages start with a period of global warming. The last glacial was accompanied by the increase of a really average global mean surface temperature, known as global warming. What happened then was that the shifting sun warmed the tropics and cooled the Arctic and Antarctic. Because the tropics are so much larger than the poles, the area-weighted global mean temperature was increasing. But also increasing was the temperature difference between the oceans and the poles, the basic condition of polar ice growth. The last glacial started with global warming. As more water vapors are carried to the poles, the southern ice cap calves and thickens, the extreme center of the northern pole gradually becomes ice-free, and the lower latitudes experience heavier snowfalls that gradually start migrating towards the south. That is exactly what is happening now. We are right on time on the 6,000-year Heinrich cycle, the major 12,000-year cycle, and all evidence is suggesting that we are now in fact due for the 100,000-year cycle and dip back into the glacial conditions. When the galactic magnetic fields change, we get flaring from the core. The cause of all of this is the galactic current sheet effect on the solar system and the sun's long-term variations of total solar irradiance, the main fundamental cause of climate change. Anywhere we get low power to the planetary shield, we find cooling of our Earth. Our very near future is cold. Powerful processes of restructuring are really taking place inside our planet and on the surface, which will lead to the beginning of global cataclysms, caused by the movement in tectonic plates on Earth, which are accelerating and beginning to diverge, activating large underwater volcanoes, causing tsunamis, earthquakes and many other natural disasters. These processes may create conditions on the planet that are incompatible with life. As a result, humanity is forced to make the transition to the next cycle of life, the cycle of correction, a necessary stage for the final correction of the imperfections of consciousness and the harmony of Earth. Having completed the imperfections of consciousness, humanity will transform to complete the final perfection of consciousness, to infinity and beyond. As we move into the future and ascend into the higher realms, the influence that causes the precession also changes the frequency of our planetary realm and consciousness, causing a rise in our intellect and awareness. With this increase, we progressively know more about who we really are and how we fit into the grand scheme of our universe, the time when we are fully aware of our divinity, where we create our reality with the focus of our minds, collectively and individually for all aspects of reality, when we are almost completely aware of the source of creation, while still living in a physical form. Earth cataclysms and the unification of consciousness. The Earth cataclysms caused by consciousness, our collective actions, and changes in our climate are seen as a trigger for unification of human consciousness, for us all to come together and ascend to a new dimension of existence, for which the keys of understanding have been passed down to us by our ancestors. A transformation is necessary to make this transition and transfer through levels of higher, parallel worlds, which can be achieved through the united action of our consciousness caused by our entire civilization. Our transition to the safest and highest level of the material world through the unification of consciousness of all beings and civilizations becomes a necessity for our survival. We may fulfill our destiny by making the transition to the highest level of the material world with a general resurrection of humanity in the new cycle of life with a holographic light body of much larger dimensions. In the moment of resurrection, all cells from the information world will descend their full-fledged projections into the material world. Through united action of our collective consciousness, in the process of our transition, we may also affect and prevent some of the short and long-term impacts in climate changes our world is now confronted with. In the current state of our collective awareness, we have not yet understood our potential to influence weather, climate and everything else at this time. That transformation can take place only by acquiring knowledge of our inseparable and eternal moment-to-moment unity with our universal mind of nature, and of unity with man and woman. Currently, the beginning of the formation of a united consciousness is taking place. This qualitative leap is necessary for the transition. Life in the new cycle will start with a clean sheet. The beginning of a new era when the wars will stop, world peace will come, and all the people will be able to practice spiritual perfection. This revolution of consciousness for humanity is the only possible passage to a bright future, transforming the ignorance, attachment, greed, callousness and hatred in our hearts for love and mutual understanding. This cycle in consciousness is a preparation and test of our maturity. If enough people today understand and practice the universal spiritual path to love and self-awareness, then we can save this world from its threatened oblivion and replace it with an enduring world of peace, happiness and goodwill. This high pinnacle can be reached only by unifying the whole world into one family. The only way to hold a civilization together is to bring a cosmic harmony into it through transactions based upon love. It is impossible to hold it together as a workable organization in any other way. There will never be peace on earth and goodwill toward humans, until fatherhood and motherhood sit together as world fatherhood and world motherhood to extend loving service to one another. Such imbalance is a violation of nature's one inviolate law which no earthly power can set aside and survive. Human males and females are created in equally divided pairs in order that we could unite as equal pairs. The world family home can endure only by balancing the male-female qualities. If we humans of this world open our hearts to the balance of unity in fathers and mothers, men and women, the greatest peace will come to be. Until man and woman can equalize their mental relations and work together for spiritual unity, a balanced civilization is impossible. To unite humankind into one world family upon the basis of brotherly sisterly love and human interchange, with the immediate purpose to save our rapidly decaying civilization from another fall into chaos by bringing the balance of unity between the world father and world mother, in order that the management of the world family will have the qualities of both the father and the mother, man and woman, in its world home. This transition is the final stage in the development of human consciousness. We can find peace, happiness and goodwill only as we cease building chaos. Purposefulness lies in the direction of universal law and order established and re-established by all the beings of this world. The happiness, prosperity, peace and power that all mankind desires is summed up in the one word, love. But neither of these can come to us until we know how to express love by giving it and re-giving it equally. When the underlying spirit of humanism is extended to everything, animate and inanimate, in this universe, this will elevate humanism to universalism, the cult of love for all created beings of this universe. The devotional sentiment is the highest and most valuable treasure of humanity. Salvation of the world will happen because of our practices, belief and culture in the unification of our consciousness and the golden law of reciprocity, love our neighbor as ourself. Supporting and guiding each other as a world family and global community on the universal path to love and self-awareness. The only possible solution starts with a philosophy which will establish harmony between the spiritual and material worlds, and be a perennial source of inspiration and a foundation for the onward movement of society. It will be the universal philosophy and spiritual science that will link together the visible material and invisible spiritual worlds. Our human species is in its very early stages, and we can advance only as new knowledge comes into the world to make one know what life is for, and why we were created and here to live it. Our present world disunity is due to our primacy, and the attendant ignorance of the basic essential of knowing how to live life. We are still in the stage where our greatest values are money and transient physical possessions, instead of the enduring spiritual values of mutual service to one another. This early stage of our unfolding is the cause of wars which men institute to acquire the physical possessions of others for themselves. That stage of greed for power over others, and the physical possessions of others, will be entirely eliminated from human consciousness in order to create a happy race of humanity. To exalt mankind above this present low physical level to the higher spiritual level, which all humans will eventually reach, our active participation is required, and the knowledge of ourselves, our purpose on earth, the laws which govern its own being, and those concerning our relationship to other humans and to nature. To have a living philosophy which will meet all problems alike and rise above them with glory, and become strong because of them, is important in humanity's self-education. The right way of meeting every problem of life, is by not compromising and knowing how to intelligently meet such a challenge, with compassionate wisdom and loving strength. There is only one sure way to save mankind from our threatened self-annihilation, and that one way is through new knowledge of man and woman, dynamic knowledge of who we are, what we are, why we are here, what our relationship to other beings is, and our relationship to nature and the universe. With this basic knowledge we will know our purpose on earth, and knowingly work with nature. Worldly people do not yet understand that among the myriad living things, that which is the most numinous and the most penetrating is their own primal spirit, which has the capacity to penetrate heaven and abound through earth with brilliant radiance. The universal philosophy we are embedded in an invisible, dimensional system here in our bodies and on earth. A supreme intelligent being of light and cosmic force gives us life and governs the structure of all worlds, regulates its polarity and is the universal, cosmic energy residing within nature, each living being and all things in existence. Humans have given it many names. It is the one who dwells in all creatures, as the soul, as the power to know, as the power to will and the power to act. The consciousness of all living beings, the intelligence, the matter, and all that is. It is mostly incomprehensible to us, its nature is the unfathomable mystery of life. It is both the source of self-bondage through ignorance and the source of self-liberation through knowledge. The spirit of emptiness is infinite and immortal. It is like a vapor, barely seen but always present. It is always there within us. It is the essence and the spiritual truth behind all religions, philosophies, and schools of thought. It is the source of everything, the driving mechanism of evolution, and the primordial force of the universe that animates all things. No human likeness or material symbol can capture the essence of it. The ethereal manifestation of energy is both in stillness and in motion. The universe is a single photon. The photon is a living being, an essential consciousness from which the entire universe fractalized. The form of this photon expanded outward into the virtual infinity of existence. The one living being, of which all nature is a part, breathes the breath of life. Every form in nature is but a unit of the whole and sustains its appearance of existence through the life-sustaining breathing of the whole. The material substance of mind is an all-pervading ether which is indivisible, inseparable, indestructible, unalterable and unchangeable. All creating things are dependent upon light to hold them together in the appearance of individually separate things. As light is the substance of all things, and all things are dependent on light, all things are therefore interdependent. Matter is light in motion. Nothing which is not light. Light is the universal language. Using the gender metaphor has given rise to difficulties and misunderstandings. People lacking the knowledge that accompanies enlightenment, project onto these high-power stereotypes and conclusions, likes and dislikes, gender attributes such as male and female. The Divine Mother and Father becomes anthropomorphized into a woman and man, leading us to distort its true nature and meshing us in a web of imprisoning thoughts. If we truly wish to approach an understanding of its nature that may help us realize it, we must be vigilant against taking the gender metaphor farther than its usefulness permits. We are transformed by the knowledge of nature given to us which we have never before been able to obtain. Knowing about ourselves is the first essential of life. A way of life through a living philosophy based upon a knowledge of the laws of nature, which govern humanity, is of the greatest importance. The highest wisdom is the wisdom that awakens the original spirit. As each being is transformed through the knowledge we have gained, more and more become inspired to do likewise. Ill health and the misfortunes of life are the result of not knowing how to obey natural law. We learn the power to command our body and enroll to keep its normal balance of heal. This enables us to heal ourselves through cosmic knowledge. A new living philosophy will show a way of life that will lead to health individually and collectively through knowledge of the underlying principles of nature. We have the choice of doing those things that will bring balance to our world and relations, or destroying our society with the high peak of technological advancement by its unbalanced takings. Desiring something for nothing has become too great a part of our thinking. This thinking is the result of us not comprehending the law of rhythmic balanced interchange. When humanity at long last understands this law, and gives loving service without thought of what we may get in return, there will be abundance for all. As in every human transaction, if we desire to retain balance, we must give and be regiven equally, for only in so doing do we fulfill the law of balance which governs every man, every nation and everything on earth and the universe. A new era of human life, the era of peace, prosperity, love, mutual understanding, support and social equality is the foundation of healthy relationships and a sustainable life in harmony with nature and our universe, and will immediately start after the cataclysm. Just in this period of life humanity will finally realize the world not as fragmented and disunited, but as a single, united whole. A new humanism filled with love and awareness overflowing in all directions, unifying individual life with collective life, and transforming this earth into a blissful heaven that is the highest state of attainment in human life, the source of all inspiration, the mission of spirituality for the supreme fulfillment of all. When we have embraced the ideal of social equality, when we have attained the physical strength, psychic intellect and spiritual wisdom to materialize it, we then play a successful role to implement this noble and sublime ideal. A firm foundation will have to be created which will support humanity to face all conflicts. It is the realization that all the beings which have come to live in this world want to survive. All the expressions of human life will have to be based on this principle, by forming a new social order based on social equality. We can bring the end of suffering for ourselves and all beings. We naturally want to serve humanity and dedicate ourselves to the cause of human and animal kingdom as a whole. Our lives are valuable. Our time is valuable. We should not waste a moment. Our task is glorious and novel. To lead a life in devotion to all. Love and attachment are reciprocal and interdependent, they are not one-sided. The new way will be based upon giving, which creates friends who show their love by regiving. Only infinite happiness will satisfy us. It is scientifically impossible for peace and happiness to come to such an unbalanced world, as long as our physical values are more important than our spiritual values. When we expand our awareness to infinity, we transform our individual limited experience into the cosmic experience of the unlimited, infinite happiness, perfect peace and contentment, bliss. Behind the human endeavor to progress towards perfection lies this one motivating factor, the desire for permanent happiness. That very irresistible aspiration that leads humans towards our goal with tremendous speed also builds all sorts of social structures and generates newer social consciousness. With all sincerity in thought, words and deeds we have to build that aspiration. We awaken the cognitive faculty latent in the innermost golden cavity of every microcosmic mind. Urged on by this desire, we started to tread the path of advancement. Early on in our journey, we discovered hundreds of personal and social imperfections hindering our progress and resolved to overcome them to reach our cherished goal. The early humans, our ancestors, motivated on by their instinctive urge to attain happiness, also battled against these imperfections. Bliss is infinite happiness. The world's desire for happiness can never be fulfilled until balance between the two equally divided mate pairs makes the desired unity possible. We vibrate pleasantly when we are in balance and at peace with ourselves and the world. If all of our transactions are balanced, we will not accumulate tensions. Without tensions, we sleep and live healthy. We are then sufficiently in tune with the infinite, able to carry tremendous tensions without feeling them. By working knowingly with nature's universal laws, all men and women can look forward to living in heavenly peace and happiness as one united world family. It is a tremendous challenge and a tremendous goal, but it is a prize in which all mankind can share. Nature's plan for mankind is to learn the lesson of love, upon which the universe is based. Humans can learn that lesson giving love to our neighbors, for re-giving by our neighbors. Service to each other is the highest principle of life. The value of every man and woman to every other man and woman is the greatest source of mankind's wealth and prosperity. World peace and happiness can only be acquired by the realization of our value to one another, and the conservation of that value by mutual service. Service with love brings humans their greatest fulfillment. We are at the dawning of a glorious new age of knowledge and awareness of our oneness with all life. May we finally bring into being the life triumphant for all people everywhere and thus fulfill our sole purpose on earth, to discover our divinity and live it. The one universal being dwells in the heart of everyone, but most of us are not conditioned to see it. If we did recognize our own self in every man, woman and child, in every living creature, and everything, in mountains, rocks, trees, rivers and oceans, there would be no war and no destruction of the environment. The moment we recognize the universal mind within ourselves as the same mind within all, there is only love. Activating our original nature, the universal mind, the original quality of our mind is great compassion, which is re-established by contemplating the nature of our relationship with all sentient beings and cultivating the bond we feel towards each other, strengthening the aspiration and wish to act for the welfare and benefit of all. Genuine compassion is able to see the big picture, cares equally about all sentient beings' present and future welfare, and never gives up. For this to happen, we begin understanding how all beings are just like us in wanting to be happy and wishing to avoid suffering, the fundamental equality which forms the basis from which we are able to develop unconditional love and compassion towards all sentient beings, embracing humans and the vast range of animals and other forms of life. It is this powerful motivation which provides the foundation for us to achieve the highest aims of our life. When we take on the task of altruism in order to benefit all beings, we develop the wish to achieve the omniscient mind of enlightenment so that we can best help all beings in every possible circumstance until everyone achieves ultimate peace and permanent freedom from suffering, ultimately attaining a direct realization of the nature of reality. The aim of our lives is to abandon non-virtuous actions and cultivate virtuous actions, giving rise and creating the cause to be born in higher realms. Unfortunately, many of us live unwisely, create negative karma and cause suffering for ourselves and others with non-virtuous actions, leading to further suffering in the future, giving rise and creating the cause to be born in the lower realms. The reality of our present life existence is impermanent. Conditions gather together, but then just as easily disperse, and although we may presently find ourselves in a good situation, tomorrow we could find ourselves suffering. There is no certainty in our future other than it will be different from what we are experiencing now. Our conditions will not remain forever. By developing the wisdom that realizes our impermanent nature, we can seize these conditions of a human form and make our lives truly meaningful. We have a choice to simply endure or to do something more and truly meaningful. To fully manifest the innate purity of our nature, we transform and dissolve all forms of ignorance and bias, free ourselves from these constraints, and develop the conditions to ensure they do not return. The wisdom that realizes the sublime emptiness of reality and the non-referential compassion that encompasses all things are two aspects that together allow us to go beyond our limitations and establish the conditions of a fully enlightened light body. Without the method of love and compassion, there is no room in our lives for change and wisdom to be effective, and without wisdom, our love and compassion remain superficial and limited. Both of these qualities are necessary for us to be successful. The physical universe is dominated by a constant process of transformation, so too is our mind. The patterns of subtle energy within the body are closely correlated to the patterns of energy in the external environment. Our cycles of breathing correspond to the movements of various planets and stars. Every pattern of change we experience internally as a sentient beings is connected with some aspect of the external cosmos. By changing the patterns of energy within ourselves, we influence the patterns of energy around us. If only a few people make these changes, the impact may be negligible, but it can quickly multiply based on the numbers of people adopting the new pattern. This is the principle of how spiritual practice is able to affect change on a larger scale. By establishing peace and harmony within our bodies and minds, we are actively contributing to the peace and harmony of the world in which we live. All phenomena in nature are interconnected, dependent on each other, and the more our awareness develops, the less separate we see ourselves operating independently in this world. This leads to the realization of emptiness in the basis of dependent origination, and when this wisdom is combined with the genuine compassion that feels a sense of personal responsibility for all sentient beings, we achieve a non-referential form of compassion that is not affected by change, known as being endowed with the essence of emptiness and compassion. When we consider the nature of the awareness that experiences love and compassion, we also discover its blissful nature. The more we open our hearts, the more bliss arises in our mind. When it remains stable and manifest, permanent and without change, no matter what the circumstances are, we experience immutable bliss. This emptiness is a field of infinite potential that is beyond atoms or particle fields and completely transcends the physical realm of experience. While simultaneously being everything, it is not fixed in any way, it transcends both existence and non-existence, a reality known as empty form because it is empty of all conceptual fabrications which limit its potential. This is the diverse nature of reality. Immutable bliss and empty form are experienced as the inseparable union, the single taste that is the definitive meaning of ultimate reality. Even though different words describe various aspects, they are all referring to the same nature. We have a rare opportunity by having a human life, by being gifted with the intelligence that is able to distinguish the causes of our suffering, and by encountering the teachings of the universal mind. These conditions are the cause of our happiness and are impermanent, which is why we should take advantage of them as much as possible. Universal spiritual path and the golden age. The purpose of all spiritual teachings is to change the way we experience reality so we can transcend our limitations and actualize our potential, relieve our suffering, and to provide us with the wisdom necessary to break free from the endless cycles of ignorance and confusion, to overcome our negative habits and cultivate our positive qualities. The inner meaning of all cultures and stories revolve around the principles of controlling the worldly material lower self, the cultivation of a spiritual path, washing and cleaning our heart minds, purifying our thoughts, transforming our emotions, and awakening our higher, immaterial, universal self of clear light, into the divine present moment, here and now. We have been granted genuine hope in the form of the dazzling ray of light. Now is the time to put this wisdom into practice by integrating it into every aspect of our experience, to become the very embodiment of that light. Through striving to be the very best we can be, we can achieve a profound state of mind and become a shining example for all those around us. The essential method of the universal being is to cultivate love and compassion, that all forms of bias are removed and the mind is able to abide in a pervasive and unchanging experience of peace and harmony. This profound realization is full and complete enlightenment, the perfect manifestation of our primordially pure clear light body nature. Because this nature is equally present at the time of the ground and the time of the result, it is considered to be both the source of our teachings and the fruition of our practice. The perfection of peace and harmony can manifest in a variety of ways depending on the purity of our mind. Practicing the universal spiritual path by cultivating life in essence, doing and non-doing, we increase our qualities of compassion and love, generate powerful karmic connections to all the beings in this world, and create the cause for us to be born in the golden age of our future, a period of time when the dominant values of a society have shifted to the perfection of peace and harmony, with spiritual values such as love, compassion and wisdom, arising after periods of great degeneration and suffering. The Golden Age gives rise to a form of enlightened society that is conducive to spiritual practice, and depends entirely on the minds of all sentient beings of this planet. If we continue to hold wrong views that promote ignorance and bias, it will be impossible to experience a Golden Age. If we each make peace and harmony our priority, a Golden Age could arise much sooner than we imagine. Co-creating our future collectively, we are now creating a new narrative to propel us through the challenges and opportunities of the emerging epoch, the age of information and imagination. As massive social, technological, economic and climatic changes continue to unfold in our civilization over the coming decades, our greatest challenge will be to compose a new storyline that will guide the evolution of our species to the unification of consciousness, solving our world problems collectively. Ancient narratives led humanity in our past and have given us clues to our future. Our current narrative and guidelines are not working. Local and international systems are failing. With accelerating technological growth and access to collective knowledge revolutionizing everyday life, the mentality of capitalism is unsustainable. With the existential threat of our global climate changing dramatically and the increasing amounts of weather catastrophes it brings, and a general rise in social inequality and unemployment, artificial intelligence advancing, modern science and weaponized technology being put into place, there is too much at stake to prolong the status quo. We can no longer equate blind growth with human progress. Humanity requires a redefined purpose, a new narrative, to define our existence. Can we afford to be passive about our future, leaving the defining decisions of our time in the hands of corporations and institutions that have led us here? Or will we become active participants in shaping our future and building its new narrative together? How dangerous are the weapons and machines of warfare and all the other scientific tools of invention? Where do we stand now as they start being used? Can these tools achieve the task of peace? We are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, which accelerates global change in much more comprehensive and faster ways since the previous three revolutions, representing a fundamental change in the way we live, work and relate to one another. It is about more than just technology-driven change. It is an opportunity to support all beings in our world and create a long-term sustainable future world for us all to live in. The real opportunity is to find ways to give the greatest number of people the ability to positively impact our families, communities, organizations, and our shared environment. The global crisis and technological revolution we are currently in now present us with a unique opportunity for us to transform and create peace and prosperity, by uniting into a global, sustainable world community and shared economy, driven by renewable energies, creating new jobs, cleaner infrastructure, adapting and modernizing governance models, reducing material and social inequalities, solving all world problems collectively. We have both a moral imperative and a clear economic case for supporting all countries to adapt and build resilience to our current crisis. An inclusive world will help ensure that people can enjoy better health and the full respect of our human rights, and live with dignity on a healthy planet. A just transition is absolutely critical. We can make the world more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable. The fourth industrial revolution's technologies, such as artificial intelligence, genome editing, augmented reality, robotics, and 3D printing, are rapidly changing the way humans create, exchange, and distribute value. As occurred in the previous revolutions, this will profoundly transform institutions, industries, and individuals. It's important to appreciate that the fourth industrial revolution involves a systemic change across many sectors and aspects of human life. The cross-cutting impacts of emerging technologies are even more important than the exciting capabilities they represent. Our abilities are advancing to edit the building blocks of life. Artificial intelligence is augmenting processes and skills in every industry. Newer technology is making unprecedented strides in how we can use and influence the brain as the last frontier of human biology. Automation is disrupting century-old transport and manufacturing paradigms, and technologies such as blockchain and smart materials are redefining and blurring the boundary between the digital and physical worlds. The result of all this is societal transformation at a global scale. By affecting the incentives, rules, and norms of economic life, it transforms how we communicate, learn, entertain ourselves, and relate to one another, and how we understand ourselves as human beings. Furthermore, the sense that new technologies are being developed and implemented at an increasingly rapid pace has an impact on human identities, communities, and political structures. As a result, our responsibilities to one another, our opportunities for self-realization, and our ability to positively impact the world are intricately tied to and shaped by how we engage with the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. This revolution is not just happening to us, but rather we have the opportunity and even responsibility to co-create and give it further structure and purpose. This revolution is about much more than technology. It is an opportunity to unite global communities, to build sustainable economies, to adapt and modernize governance models, to reduce material and social inequalities, and to commit to values-based leadership of emerging technologies. The fourth industrial revolution has arrived. We need to proactively shape it to ensure it does more good than harm. The fourth industrial revolution is therefore not a prediction of the future but a call to action. It is a vision for developing, diffusing, and governing technologies in ways that foster a more empowering, collaborative, and sustainable foundation for social and economic development, built around shared values of the common good, human dignity, and intergenerational stewardship. Realizing this vision will be the core challenge and great responsibility of the next 20 years. Revolution of love, radiating deep love for humanity. We work tirelessly to establish an ideal social order free of all exploitation where beings can live in freedom and health. When devotees realize that all beings are created from the universal mind, exist in the universal mind, and return to universal mind, it causes a radical change in our outlook. We no longer can differentiate between rich and poor, highborn and lowborn. Universal mind has been preparing us, awaiting for us to establish a new world in the excellence and grandeur of glory. The universal mind wants to bring about the welfare of human beings. More and more people are beginning to recognize the severity of the crisis and are ready to take on the responsibility of being members of a global community. In a world that is connected now more than ever, values are guiding us to step up, and use our voices and activism to call attention to the crisis. Hunger is actually the single biggest solvable problem facing the world today. The global crisis affects people's lives in very concrete ways. Clean air, safe drinking water, sufficient food, and secure shelter are all at jeopardy. Therefore, positive action requires us to act with people and animals in mind. The global crisis comes both as a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge can be daunting, as there is a lot to coordinate. The type of complexity and interconnection and the sheer scale of it pose a major requirement to any response. If the citizens are at the very center of global crisis and sustainable future work, citizen involvement is the first logical step to finding a solution. To achieve the goal of solving world problems collectively, all people, governments, the private sector, civil society and organizations must work together to ensure that we leave a better planet for future generations. Urgent action is required to reduce the loss of natural habitats and biodiversity that are part of our common heritage, and to support global food and water security. climate change mitigation and adaptation, and peace and security. Technological progress is also the key to lasting solutions to economic and environmental challenges, such as the creation of new jobs and the promotion of energy efficiency. Promoting sustainable industries and investing in scientific research and innovation are important ways to enable sustainable development. We cannot hope for sustainable development without peace, stability, human rights, and an effective rule of law. However, our world is increasingly divided. Some regions enjoy peace, security, and prosperity, while others get caught up in seemingly endless cycles of conflict and violence. This is not inevitable and needs to be addressed. The world is more interconnected than ever. Improving access to technology and knowledge is an important way to share ideas and promote innovation. Coordinating actions to help and support all countries deal with their problems, as well as encouraging investment for the least developed countries, are essential to sustainable growth and development. What better way to shape the future of our world by integrating everyone in the process, first by raising awareness on all the issues, and then by offering solutions and to inspire positive action together. By involving citizens in the decision-making process, we ensure that approaches are developed for and by people at its heart. Solving the global crisis our highest priority. It must be the top priority for everyone, everywhere. It is time to turn on the green switch. With more foreign assistance, an urgent response to crisis early warning signs, and better access to people in need, we know that humanitarian aid can save millions of lives. But we also know that we need to tackle the source of the problem. While we have no direct control over the total solar irradiance, the main cause of climate change, we are able to change our behavior on local and international levels and support each other. Unless the global community, citizens and world leaders are able to solve the crisis, stop the unnecessary wars, end hunger and famine, restore balance to nature, the crisis will continue to destroy the lives of countless beings. If we act together, there is enough food for everyone, ending hunger is within our reach. The global crisis and technological revolution we are currently in now present us with a unique opportunity for creating peace and prosperity, by uniting global communities, building sustainable economies, adapting and modernizing governance models, reducing material and social inequalities, solving all world problems collectively, and committing to values-based leadership of emerging technologies. Decentralized, smart and sustainable world communities. Vibrant, harmonious local communities are the basic building blocks of any healthy society, the very essence of what it means to be human. It is at the grassroots level we must look if we are to expect revolutionary change to occur. The only real solutions always come from the bottom and work their way up. For a global community to rise up and take responsibility for the future of our species, it will be necessary for us to transform our individual to a collective and universal state of mind. We must cultivate deep awareness of ourselves and our surroundings. We can only solve the global crisis as a collective and unified decentralized world community and organization with citizens at the core. This movement is the most important factor in this world. As we engage in increasingly more meaningful activities, we begin to broaden our awareness of the different ways in which people suffer. The challenge in our life is to look deeply into the nature of the experience of sentient beings and to develop a profound compassion for each of them. This compassion will drive our practice and inspire us into action. 4. We have to work to bring about the welfare of every being. No benevolent individual can neglect anyone. A well-planned and coordinated effort to solve the global crisis and all of our world's issues together as a world family and community will be required. In an interconnected world, the need for information on a global scale is crucial for understanding and solving our issues together as a world family. With everyone's support, we can bring the end of suffering for ourselves and all beings. Our mission of protecting and taking active responsibility for our home planet and start solving all of our world's problems collectively, to better understand climate change and environmental degradation, to help lower pollution, poverty and support those without a home and not enough to eat, to ensure and work towards peace, social equality and prosperity for all, to meet the smart and sustainable development goals continuously re-established by all beings, can only be realized with all of us, our love, our dedicated attention and our full support. The solution specifically lies in the implementation of decentralized, regionally self-sufficient, water-rich and sustainable centers where up to several thousand people can live. With the support of water retention landscapes, permaculture and new energy technologies working according to the laws of life, these centers will be able to supply all of humanity with an abundance of food, energy and fresh drinking water within a few decades. At the same time they heal all of nature's ecosystems and living beings. The apparent contradiction between thriving economically and protecting nature is thus overcome. The new energy technologies are no longer based on breaking resistances, but follow a line of tension. They connect the new centers with the everlasting energy sources of the sun and the universe. The fight for resources will come to its end. Restoring natural water cycles is only possible through localized, decentralized activity. For people to take responsibility and act meaningfully to restore their local ecosystems, we need to consider water management primarily at the level of each watershed. Decentralized movements have short, effective feedback loops, allowing people to see and feel the effects of their own actions. Ordinary people are empowered to restore the landscapes they live in and to see how responsible water management benefits their own lives. All beings are unified in one existence and one consciousness, all belong to the universal community of life. Now, in order to remove people's sufferings in the physical sphere, common sense dictates that the wealth of the entire universe should be considered as common patrimony. The wealth is meant for all, so that all can live collectively. So there is a need to introduce a system where all human beings will distribute the entire wealth among the collective body in a collective way. Unfortunately, this was never done, it was not done, therefore the problems and difficulties in collective life have continued. Uniting the people and giving us a public framework to work and live under, may not only give hope in a time of crisis, but present solutions and allow implementation of entirely new practical actions to solve some of our world's most challenging problems we face today. Now is the time for action. We can only solve the global crisis as a collective and unified decentralized world community. Our vision is to collaborate cross-culturally and interact with sustainability leaders from all areas, to question old practices, to get inspired and find new solutions, and to bring green ideas to life, to accelerate the process and create global impact by including everyone in the process. At the end of the day, it's the communities, not the governments, that must carry out the groundwork for hitting emissions targets. Therefore, policy and decision makers must set aspirations for climate action collectively if they want their climate change agendas to be realized by citizens. Two important aspects of climate justice involve recognition and redistribution, which can be achieved through the plurality of voices and the opportunity to participate equitably. These processes can contribute to a more inclusive, less divisive form of politics and build a public mandate for climate action when done correctly. Global crisis and climate change solutions must be designed and executed with citizens at the core, ensuring that the ecological and humanitarian transition is adaptive, democratic and fair, for the whole population but particularly for marginalized groups. Otherwise, we risk further polarizing society if public mandates take place behind closed doors. A decentralized, smart and sustainable community network is designed to meet this challenge and enable everyone to work towards building a greener world in harmony with nature. The SmartNet will provide a space for citizens to work together to solve the global crisis, and to understand the opportunities that come with decisive action and sustainable lifestyles. It aims to connect different sectors of society, including regions, local communities, civil society, industry and schools, and to work alongside existing initiatives, movements and networks. By pledging not to leave anyone behind, countries have pledged to accelerate progress for those furthest behind. For this reason, the Sustainable Development Goals aim to bring the world to several life-changing zeros, including zero poverty, zero hunger, and zero discrimination against all people, especially women and children. World citizen participation. Everyone is needed to achieve these ambitious goals. The creativity, know-how, technology and financial resources of society as a whole are necessary to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in any context. In times when the COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated that urgent, far-reaching measures can take place on short notice, many have wondered why we haven't approached the global crisis with all of the world's problems with similar resolve. Although understandable in its well-meaning tone, this sentiment echoes the fact that finding a solution to one of the most pressing concerns of our time is a daunting task in its own right. A complex challenge, thus, requires a carefully thought out and implemented solution. The citizens need to be at its very core. Even the most elaborate attempts in the past have shown that some of the more technocratic solutions fail to address what is, in essence, a matter of a much more inclusive approach. Citizen participation is often a point intervention. A vote at an election every few years, a consultation process on a new town square, or a bypass, the occasional protest movement or letter to the mayor. Challenges on the societal scale, so dependent on personal behaviors, and with such huge impact on the life of individuals, cannot be handled in such a way. We need a longer term, more conversational approach, that allows for changes to be planned and delivered with people, and strengthens the civic and democratic infrastructure that can allow that to happen, and which in too many places has been thinned out rather than strengthened over the years. We need to make sure that everyone in the world can access those opportunities, and that their voices are heard in a fair balance. The process itself will increase community acceptance of the outcomes, and whatever is designed by working with citizens and other stakeholders, we can help the city representatives understand how citizens think and act, and how they value different climate action approaches, including ensuring that the transition to carbon neutrality is just and fair. We can't decide the approach in the Parlement, or even in national capitals. They can set targets, set priorities, but the impacts have to be handled on the ground, by communities and people involved. This is why citizen participation is so essential, on a scale and in a way that we have not generally done such things before. The investment in climate action. Climate action requires significant investment from governments at all levels. Ensuring that the community resources invested in climate action are ones that will pay dividends and contribute to healthy, clean cities of the future is important. Embedding citizen participation helps to ensure that opportunity costs, whether financial, effort or interest, is managed. That's why it's essential, even as money is flowing in increasing amounts into climate transition, that the choices on how to move forward are made with citizens, in the places where they live, and that those voices are joined up at regional, national and European scale. Gain the public will to create a better and just future for all. While global crisis action is a challenge that cities are facing, it is not the only one. Global crisis action issues touch on fundamental questions about what our communities ought to be like, and how we ensure justice and fairness in the future. Making citizen participation part of the approach ensures that people are able to have a voice in understanding how they will enjoy living, working and playing in their city in the future. Policy and decision makers are able to build on the legitimacy for certain measures by setting aspirations for climate action together with citizens. Traditional approaches for delivering public policies and decision-making processes have been insufficient to trigger the transformation we know we need, due mainly to the lack of understanding of the social dimension of climate change. We often forget that it is not just about finding technological solutions but changing the social norms and behavior on how we interact with energy and resources. Technology will not stop climate change. People will. We know what we need to do. Just to name a few, these include electrification, circular, regenerative economies, climate-friendly food, systems and diets, healthy, clean cities, energy renewables, energy efficiency, net zero emissions. Implementing new policies, but the challenge of implementing the policies that will enable these shifts is huge because they also disrupt business as usual models and the way we interact with the environment. Finding our allies if we have to reinvent and go through a deep transformation of our current economic systems and behavioral patterns, it is clear that we urgently need a new way of storytelling for the climate crisis, one that integrates listening tools to identify perceptions, barriers and enablers of change. New perspectives from unusual partners in the climate debate, like culture, economy or digitalization, could then give us the key for a wider and enriched vision to better reach citizens. We have to incorporate cost-benefit analysis, innovative financing models for low-carbon transitions, green impact funds to get a clear view of the investments and costs associated and, even more important, to understand and create awareness of the cost of inaction to face climate risks. The international perspective provides three direct benefits. It makes it easier to get political endorsement to the process, because international initiatives are usually well accepted and seen as politically non-biased. It allows the sense of network and community with other cities and, last but not least, it could be a potential financing source for the process. A net zero future offers significant opportunities for the European economy, society and citizens. The recent advancements bring significant opportunities to drive further efforts and investments in the green transition. While investment in research and innovation will be critical to create the enabling conditions to transform our economic and societal systems to become more resilient and better prepared for systemic risks, a business-as-usual approach to innovation will not be enough. A systems innovation approach, on the other hand, would unlock change at the scale and speed needed to trigger massive change for decarbonization by simultaneously acting on various levers of change from policy to education, innovation, finance and citizen engagement. This could maximize climate impact on the ground and reinforce the people's position as the leader of the global climate action movement. Healing biotopes and eco-villages. The very basis of human existence is grounded in the life-based systems of a community with a functioning social network existing in an environment of clean soil, water and air. Eco-villages and the larger social movements of which they are an integral part are one of the most important and promising movements in all of history. An eco-village is an intentional, traditional or urban community that is consciously designed through locally owned participatory processes in all four dimensions of sustainability, social, culture, ecology and economy, to regenerate social and natural environments. Vibrant, harmonious local communities are the basic building blocks of any healthy society, the very essence of what it means to be human. But such communities are being destroyed all over the world by the current economic system that ignores the negative environmental and social effects of its ideology. The eco-villagers who are adapting their lifestyle to the needs of future society, living lightly on the earth in tolerant harmony of all other beings. Eco-villages help to implement the Sustainable Development Goals and climate agreements on local levels. Many social innovations developed in eco-villages can be transferred and replicated, and local solutions to global challenges add up. Over time, eco-villages become a force for positive societal transformation. Healing biotopes and peace centers demonstrate how creating new living environments can structurally and lastingly develop cooperation and trust. For this purpose, a World Council is being established with humans all over the world, to cooperate with one another and support the plan, utilizing international distribution and acknowledgement so that everyone will be able to see the endeavor as realistically feasible. Alongside the indispensable political and spiritual awakening that is happening on Earth, This new movement will be successful with various media channels and professionals to develop and spread the archetypal images, words and universal wisdom of peace, love, balance, equality, the laws of nature, through art, films, product merchandise, news, social media channels, commentary on global events. The underlying potential of revolutionary power is thereby awakened, for this information is in resonance with a dream anchored in every human being's soul. The crisis resolution that is needed today is a creative and complete exit from the old system. This will happen through the construction of decentralized peace villages with self-sufficient supplies in the basic resources of water, energy, food, community, and love. New forces of consciousness will emerge through a deep soul connection with the maternal ground of the earth, from which all life comes, and through connection with the spiritual forces of the universe. Slowly a morphogenetic field is emerging for the formation of the new system of life. Through a growing, intelligent network, the resonance field will increase and lead to the further initiation of regional life centers. The image of a healthy world lies deep within our own souls. Trust, truth and mutual support, no condemnation of others, not even in thought. Trust is a deep key to all true renewal. Where there is genuine trust, a higher power can enter and work miracles. The establishment of functioning healing biotopes requires a high ethical commitment from participants. A new relationship with the animal world, which stands in living cooperation with humans in the overall organism of life. This calls for attention, friendship, love and help for all creatures. In view of the coming catastrophes, we begin to organize for self-sufficiency for our biological survival, so we can become independent of large-scale systems. Above all, we need subsistence economies which provide us with the necessary water, food, and energy. Systems will come into being that we can call peace villages or healing biotopes. Once the first ones are functioning, similar models will emerge in many places on Earth, because all human beings are connected to the same world order of the sacred matrix. The world will only turn to the better when we demonstrate that it is possible. It truly is about a system change for human society, a transformation which will liberate us from old dependencies, and give us the strength to build a different life. For truly healing ecological work, we must follow regenerative design principles, working in cooperation with nature, leading to a regenerative human existence on Earth. Using natural farming, seed saving and permaculture design principles, we can regenerate the soil and achieve regional food and seed sovereignty. We can collaborate with all beings on healing this planet. For this, we must learn to speak with all. In a healthy, integrated biotope, there's no more waste if we understand how to participate in the circular cycles of nature in a regenerative way. Decentralized water, food and energy systems are interconnected, and can provide independence from global supply. Autonomous decentralized regions and exchange among these regions will be central features of a regenerative and non-violent future world. Building communities of trust is a path toward enlightenment. Creating a sustainable future environment. Nature United and OneUp is a brand new social enterprise, organization, platform, art media label, news and networking app, that is building a global community with projects connecting and inspiring people worldwide to start working on solving world problems collectively. Our goal is to confront and solve the global crisis by better understanding the problems on local and international levels and by offering solutions within a common framework and platform for us to start from. We aim to inspire, educate and allow people of all ages to participate, connect, share and take action for the greater good of all. By starting sustainable community-based projects and products combined with creative social media and our custom-developed app offering incentives and rewards for active participation, we inspire and engage people worldwide with projects and ideas, allowing new opportunities and possibilities to occur, collaborate and get involved in. Whether that activity is handing out water and food to the homeless, setting up housing and shelter, developing the next sustainable clothing and production materials, replacing harmful behavior and products with new alternatives like improving our consumer and food habits, producing new energy resources, raising money and awareness on specific issues and projects, starting urban gardening and self-sustainable communities, integrating new and improved currencies to the market, or simply creating thought-provoking art and music around the world, the activities are limitless on what we can do to support a sustainable future environment, uplift humanity, awakening our true potential, and to create peace and prosperity on Earth for all beings. Doing good becomes a popular and fun act to do when we see everyone else doing it as well, which our projects will all make possible in never-before-seen ways. Strongly supporting all age groups of people getting back into the real world and away from exclusively using their phones for temporary entertainment and personal enjoyment, and instead, motivating us all to make a real and meaningful impact in our world, by connecting with a global world community that truly cares and appreciates all ongoing efforts to improve our situation as a whole, supporting and sharing each other's activities, creating long-lasting results accompanied by a feeling and knowing of doing things that really matter. Altruism is the key to infinite happiness, and our projects, products and global community platform are the means to make that happen on a never-before-seen global scale. We believe our awareness and daily actions truly matter in this world. Social media, sustainability and technology have an immense impact on our world and economy. Our projects will give nature and people a public voice, accelerate the green transformation and world citizenship process, raise global awareness, encourage cleaning, rebuilding and restoring of our environment, create and connect social workers, volunteers and thought leaders of sustainable living, with people, corporations, investors, and all classes of society, promoting the positive change necessary for us now to achieve a world in harmony and balance with nature. Our mission of protecting and taking active responsibility for our home planet and start solving all of our world's problems collectively, to better understand climate change and environmental degradation, to help lower pollution, poverty and support those without a home and not enough to eat, to ensure and work towards peace and prosperity for all, and to meet the Sustainable Development Goals established by the United Nations and the general public, can only be realized with our full support and attention. Recognizing crime, corruption, ignorance and greed as a major issue and impediment to a better world, and without having to solely rely on governments, elected officials and approved scientists to solve all of our problems, we propose, instead, to involve, encourage and integrate the active participation of the general public and all citizens to become a major part of the solutions now being formulated and put into place. Let nature's, animals and people's voices be heard. We aim to collaborate, innovate and act together, in order to turn the crisis and green thread into an opportunity for peace, prosperity and sustainable growth. Our projects are here to allow all people to turn on the green switch and build a sustainable system driven by the latest achievements in scientific technology, renewable energy, green jobs and a resilient future. Oftentimes, the greatest change is sparked by a single idea that can evolve into tangible projects, impact-driven startups, and community initiates, crafted by the people, for the people. Let Nature United One Up be that idea. Make a pledge today, take a step for our home world and inspire others. Everyone can contribute and no action is too small. All around the world, governments, cities and towns, companies, investors and individuals are already taking action to shape a smart and sustainable society. Citizens, organizations and groups can get involved in many ways. One of them is committing to take concrete action, whether small sustainable choices or big, bold projects, and sharing these actions with others to inspire them to join. One world citizen government, we, the people, can build the world we desire, of living in peace and social equality on our collective Earth home. by becoming and declaring ourselves world citizens, registering with a World Citizen Passport, and establishing a functional decentralized One World Citizen government, actively operating with an international World Assembly, World Parliament, World Court, using both one global governing body and council and many smaller local bodies and councils, with a real voting system where everyone is invited and encouraged to contribute through voluntary participation with the ability to vote on every topic, all organized and functioning as a decentralized autonomous organization. The will and opinion of all people shall be the basis of the authority of the world government. As world citizens, we promote universal human, animal and nature rights, encourage world citizenship, build institutions of world law, that will support us as a world family to live peacefully with each other and sustainably on Earth, supporting us in de-escalating tension, dissolving conflicts, and building an international society living in balance and harmony with nature. World citizenship and a one world government established by us, the people of the Earth, operating as a decentralized autonomous organization, is the only way for us to organize ourselves, for our voices to be heard, for us to live in harmony with nature. As world citizens, we carry our rights and duties with us wherever we are, and we know that the world we share already unites us. All human beings are born on planet Earth from human parents. Legally, we are all world citizens by birth. World citizenship begins with an acceptance of the oneness of the human family and the interconnectedness of the communities of the Earth, our home. When you identify as a world citizen, you do not give up any other allegiance. You simply extend your allegiance to humanity and the Earth. World citizenship implies that the individual is empowered to contribute to the structure and governing of society in a unified way. World citizen government. World citizenship is the key to affirming and protecting human and environmental rights. World citizenship is an inclusive legal and political identity, uniting humanity under the banner of universal rights. World citizenship is about acceptance of our fellow humans as part of one human family. As world citizens, we appreciate and respect the many cultures, languages, and points of view of our fellow humans. World citizenship is about enacting the golden rule of doing to others as we would do to ourselves. World citizenship, as an official, legal and political status, would end statelessness immediately. Our rights and duties would be upheld no matter where we are, no matter how much money we have in our pocket, no matter what language we speak, religion we practice, or any other factor that we humans use to classify one another. By seeing the Earth as one unit, world citizens gain an awareness of how our actions affect our fellow humans and the environment. With a common allegiance to global democratic institutions, to protecting humanity as a whole, and to safeguarding the Earth, world citizenship links us all together for the good of the one and the many. When we identify as a world citizen, we do not give up any other allegiance, we simply extend our allegiance to humanity and the Earth. The core meaning expresses the fundamental unity of each and every human as an inalienable member of humankind itself living on home planet Earth. Until the world government is fully established by all people, the World Passport and intermediate tools, software apps, and network will serve as educational tools and stepping stones to help people raise their thinking above the nations and borders that divide us. By obtaining a World Passport, many people feel they step into a new identity. We gain a new sense of empowerment, and a place to stand to build the systems and institutions required to advance human and environmental rights on a global scale. Identifying ourselves as a world citizen can be the first step to building an environmentally sustainable, just and peaceful world. The world citizen government is the political representation of each citizen of the world and of humanity. Its purpose is to provide a global political service institution for the creation and preservation of world peace. The world citizen government is founded on three principles: world laws, one spirit, one world, one humankind. The government's operations are grounded in the science of geodialectics, the dynamic relationship between the one and the many. As human beings, the individual represents the one and humanity represents the many. Despite minimal differences, humans are intrinsically linked. From this basic premise derives notions such as sovereignty, human rights, and social justice, as well as well-being and peace. The World Passport represents the inalienable human right of freedom of travel on planet Earth. Therefore, it is premised on the fundamental oneness and unity of the human community. In modern times, national passports have become a symbol of national sovereignty and exclusive control by each nation-state. That control works both for citizens within the nation and all others outside. All nations thus collude in the system of control of travel rather than its freedom. Freedom of travel is one of the essential marks of the liberated human being, as stated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The World Passport is a meaningful symbol and powerful tool for the implementation of the fundamental human right of freedom of travel. By its very existence, it challenges the exclusive assumption of sovereignty of the nation-state system. It is designed to conform to nation-state requirements for travel documents. But, it does not indicate the nationality of its bearer, only their birthplace. It is a neutral document of identity and potential travel document. A passport gains credibility with its acceptance by authorities other than the issuing agent. The World Passport in this respect has a track record of over 65 years of acceptance. Currently, more than 185 countries have vised it on a case-by-case basis. In short, the World Passport represents the one world we all live in. Everyone has the right to move freely in their natural birthplace, the Earth. We have the right to choose our own political allegiance, in this case, to affirm our world citizenship status, as a citizen of the world citizen government. In essence, our sovereignty as a human being is complemented by a declared government of our peers of over a half-century's existence. Citizen means the political empowerment of the individual. It implies rights and duties within a given social community. Yes, world citizenship is compatible with national citizenship. We do not have to renounce any other citizenship or nationality to claim world citizenship. Since the individual is fundamentally sovereign, we have the right to choose our own political allegiance. Article 15 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. International and national laws cannot deny or prohibit our right to be a world citizen. Under international law, the principal doctrine is that of self-determination. UN Charter, the International Covenants on Human Rights, and Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In national law, many constitutions refer specifically to fundamental human rights as inalienable and therefore irrevocable by any relative government. The Great Law of Peace. We welcome all people and nations to take shelter under the Great Law of Peace and join as one world family and organization. The Great Law of Peace was a vehicle for creating harmony, unity and respect among human beings. Its recognition of individual liberty and justice surpasses that of many democracies. The U.S. Constitution is modeled in both principle and form on the Great Law of Peace of the Native American tribe known as the Iroquois. In 1987, the United States Senate acknowledged that the Great Law of Peace of the Iroquois nations served as a model for the Constitution of the United States. USS Con. Rees. 76, December 2, 1987. And since the U.S. Constitution was a model for the Charter of the United Nations, the Iroquois Great Law of Peace is also a basis of international law. The Great Law of Peace includes freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right of women to participate in government, separation of powers, checks and balances within government, a government of the people, by the people and for the people, 3 branches of government, 2 houses and a Grand Council, a Women's Council, which is the Iroquois equivalent of our Supreme Court settling disputes and judging legal violations. The central idea underlying Iroquois political philosophy is that peace is the will of the Creator, and the ultimate spiritual goal and natural order among humans. The Grand Council makes decisions following the principles set forth in the Great Law of Peace. A single arrow is weak and easily broken. A bundle of arrows tied together cannot be broken. This represents the strength of having a confederacy. It is strong and cannot be broken. Giving thanks serves as a reminder to appreciate and acknowledge all things. The words express thanks for our fellow human beings, nature, earth, the moon, sun, stars, water, air, winds, animals, and more. We gather our minds together to send greetings and thanks to all the animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us as people. We see them near our homes and in the deep forest. We are glad they are still here, and we hope that it will always be so. Now our minds are one. With one mind, we turn to honor and thank all the plant foods we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, the grains, vegetables, beans, and berries have helped the people survive. Many other living things draw strength from them, too. We gather all the plant foods together as one and send them a greeting of thanks. Now our minds are one. We give thanks daily, not just once a year. We give thanks for all things, from the water and sun to the insects and animals. Our giving thanks is a very important part of our life, as we start and end with thanks, the words that come before all else. Nature United as the main organization, the essence and meta umbrella, the nature voice, showing us the problems and solutions. One Up and other projects as the active forces solving our problems. As the public representation of the people, led and supported by the people and world communities willing to participate. For strengthening the confidence of citizens in the state and people as the source of power. For establishing trust as the most solid foundation for the creative work of the state and society. For striving to ensure that the voice of our citizens is decisive, and that constructive proposals and requests from various social forces are implemented. As the umbrella project to help raise awareness and self-realization, starting with ourselves, to every person, every community and state, utilizing the global crisis as a starting point for such a collective and individual transformation. As a public platform and brand, with a global campaign offering unique solutions for the general public that encourage and inspire as many people as possible to work together as a collective community, to become active participants in the world transformational process, promoting the universal call to action to fight poverty, to protect the planet and to ensure peace and prosperity. For establishing a common universal framework of international life in an era of almost endless digital space being formed, for the public organization to clean up all of our planet. For opening our eyes, for looking around and understanding our earth, air, and water as our common property. To help us understand that our home planet Earth, is what is given to us from above, what is needed for us to learn to take care of, as well as the value of every human race. For assisting the world and all people worldwide. Working together with the world's leading resources for climate solutions, as an initiative meant to empower people and workers to transform society, for helping to figure out, what does the next step look like? To help our society and all people thinking through problems and solutions, so that we can start to tackle these broader systemic issues in society. To inspire a grassroots theory of change and finding ways of remaking society from below. As an educational curriculum embedded in social media communication channels, with emphasis that draws on activism, education, news information, through which the students will learn about different approaches to making these issues more visible and work toward their own projects and contributions. To empower people to achieve and better advocate sustainable development goals at their home and workplaces, and also to help build a community of support and green activism across companies. To helping the world be comfortable discussing structural inequities, with the community, co-workers and the broader public. To giving people hands-on experience in advocating positive change in society through working towards a green sustainable world. To inspire reflection on theories of change in society and local communities. To help people feel confident in advocating and articulating, through writing or other forms, inequities in society. To build a supportive network and community in society who we can seek advice and encouragement from in the future, especially in discussing conflicting topics and those of race/ethnicity/gender/sexuality/nationality/class across the industry's internal and external practices. To strengthening and building forms of collective action that will solidify into new practices and infrastructures throughout the industry. To create employment and jobs by building a worldwide network and community in the digital and real world, offering new and innovative solutions to help people on Earth solving our common problems we all share together, supported by environmental organizations and smart green projects. To enabling the channeling and presentation of information from people and organizations to present themselves.